I think there's a big Jewish awakening right now because of a lot of what we're seeing around us as a result of October 7th in Israel, the massacre that happened on October 7th. And since then, a lot of the anti-Semitism, I'm going to talk a little bit about that, anti-Shem, that's where it comes from, anti-Semitism, anti-Shemi in Hebrew, anti-Semitism. Okay, so we're seeing a rise in that, and as a result, we're seeing a lot of Jews who did not previously, prior to October 7th and the aftermath of that, maybe identify so much with their own Judaism, with their own history, with their people, with their, we're mixed in. And I want to just go over a little bit of what generational trauma means to Jews, okay? Because we are basically called the despised faith, the despised people throughout history, okay? And it's very interesting, I think, that in recent times, especially prior to the formation of the state of Israel in 1948, and we'll get into that a little bit, that we never, okay, so we had the Holocaust. I'm going to call it 1.0. That was in the, let's just put from 1930 to like 1945-ish era, okay? Holocaust 1.0. This, of course, October 7th with Holocaust. 2.0, and I've heard everyone from Benjamin Netanyahu to all the other random people that have called it like a Holocaust. It's the worst massacre that's happened since the Holocaust. It's like a Holocaust that happened in Israel. Wasn't Israel the state, okay? State of Israel was here to ensure that never again. That tagline over and over and over since Holocaust 1.0 was pounded into our heads. Never again, never again. Now the state of Israel is here to prevent that from ever happening again because we're traumatized. We have generational trauma, not just from Holocaust 1.0, but from our whole entire history, from the pogroms, from the expulsions, from the Inquisition. You don't think we know that we're the despised faith? We know a little bit about anti-Semitism, okay? It comes from here. Let's just look very quickly at our lineage from Adam and Eve. This is an unbroken chain, by the way. Adam wrote a book, okay? Then after this, the flood came here. After the flood, God chose Noah because he was righteous in his generation, and he had 3 sons, Ham, Japhet, not writing very neatly, and Shem. And through Shem, he gave this information of God. Okay, that's why anti-Shemi, that's what that means. Because they didn't get the information of God. They have their own ideologies and their own spiritual practices and their own information. But through Shem, then after that came Avraham. I'm skipping over a lot of people in the generations. From Avraham and Sarah came Yitzchak. They only had 1 son. Avraham had other sons. He had Ishmael. Okay, he also had other sons whom he sent to the east and gave them certain spiritual information, not this information. This information exclusively went to Yitzchak. From Yitzchak and Rivka to Yaakov. Yaakov married Leah and Rachel. They had 12 sons, the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, and then one of those tribes was Levi. And from the tribe of Levi came Moses, who wrote down for us, God for us, the Torah. We were all there on Har Sinai, and then we became the nation of Israel. Okay, one of the other sons was Judah, and from this tribe comes King of David. Okay, King David. So again, I'm just going back to the generational trauma that we have all suffered throughout our history, okay, as a nation of Israel, okay? But thanks to our grandfathers and their grandfathers and their grandfathers and their grandfathers and mothers, grandfathers and mothers, all of our history, and by the way, again, like I said, this is an unbroken chain. You can go and look from Moses, then it went to Joshua. From Joshua to the elders, from the elders to the prophets, from the prophets to the men of the Sanhedrin, and all their names are given down there. And then each generation was commanded to pass it down to their sons and daughters and to keep the tradition. Okay, so throughout time, there's been things that have happened to us, like the Inquisition, like, the expulsions from all Arab lands, by the way, and all the pogroms in, for example, Russia and Ukraine, etc., 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 and throughout history, up until Holocaust 1.0, okay, in Europe, mostly. But don't forget that the USA and Canada and Australia and many other Western countries turned away Jews, didn't allow Jews to come and find safe, refuge in these countries, send them back to die in Europe, okay? So, and then since then, we've had endless, we like memorialize this date, the Shoah, Yom Shoah. We have Holocaust museums. We always have the never again because now we have Israel. This is a trauma that is reinforced yearly and in every single way. And if any point in time anywhere, we see some anti-Semitism, we right away say, no, never again, never again. And then we're reinforce this security, this feeling of security that we now have that the Holocaust will never happen now because we have the state of Israel and we have a mighty army in the IDF, okay? But we're reinforced this generational trauma. Now, let me ask you again, why don't we celebrate why don't we memorialize? Why don't we constantly have in mind the Inquisition? Why don't we constantly have in mind the pogroms? Why don't we, and that happened even to as 2-3 generations ago, my grandfather or my great-grandfather, I guess, or my grandfather's father in Russia with the Bolsheviks, who Dr. Zhivagoed his house and took it over and killed, his brothers and, all that stuff happened just not long ago. Why don't we constantly think about that? Why are we constantly thinking about Holocaust, anti-Semitism, Holocaust, never again, Holocaust, We have generational trauma. What does that mean? And it's reinforced all the time. So we will feel a state of security in the state of Israel and in the IDF. Now, where did Holocaust 2.0 occur? Holocaust 2.0, again, like we said, on October 7th, happened in the state of Israel. Now we see rise in anti-Semitism all over the world. And where do we feel safe, guys? Do we feel safe where Holocaust 2.0 happened? There is only one safety, and that is God. Now you can say, whoa, well, where was God when all that happened to us over the years and over the history? God loved us so much. Why have we been persecuted and hated? So that's another thing I want to explore just very quickly. When we kept to ourselves, they didn't like us. They came after us. When we kept to ourselves and had our own towns and had our own villages or our own ghettos, whatever, they came into those ghettos and came into those shtetls and whatever, and they pogromed us there. Okay, just like in Israel, keeping to ourselves. Israel doesn't go out and literally, try to conquer Lebanon. If we're attacked, we respond. We didn't burst into Gaza on October 7th and start a fight. We were keeping to ourselves and they came and did that, okay? Or so you're darned if you do and you're darned if you don't. So you want to mix in over here. You want to go to their universities, you want to go to Harvard. You want to start a business, you want to have a nice little restaurant somewhere. You want to be just like the non-Jews, then they're going to get you over there. Right? So you're darned if you do and you're darned if you don't. They can say, well, it's because we hate you because you're ethnocentrism and you're always, this, that, and the next thing. But if you mix in, then they're going to hate you there too eventually. Remember Holocaust 1.0 when the neighbors and the colleagues and the, your townsfolk and whatever. Remember the story? There was a story in Hungary where just a village just gathered up all their Jews in the middle of the night, put them in a barn and burned it down. Remember those stories? They're neighbors. Weird. And then when some of them somehow in other towns came back after the war, they were all scared that the Jews want to reclaim their property and reclaim their businesses. That's what they were worried about. Now, again, I'm not saying that all non-Jews hate the Jews. No, there's a lot of support. Baruch Hashem, I also saw a video of one lady in Budapest who was saying, we love the Jews. We welcome the Jews. Jews are welcome here. We are appalled by the anti-Semitism that we're seeing after October 7th. Yes, there are lots of good non-Jews, Baruch Hashem, but I'm talking to the Jews who have generational trauma. We have suffered a lot in our history, okay? Even now the Khazarian Jews are a very interesting thing that conspiracy theorists like to say that they're the fake Jews. Let's just put that all aside for a minute. I'm just looking at this in defense of the despised faith, okay? Rabbi Yehuda Levi lived a really long time ago, and it was already called the despised faith. It's always been the despised faith. Why? Because of this. Okay, but what I'm saying is this generational trauma that we have, in a way, it is there to always remind us that we are different. They're going to remind us anyway, okay, like we see now all over the world. But our history is to remind us to always look back. There is a history other than the Holocaust. There is a history other than all the traumas that have occurred to us. There's a strong and a beautiful history that we're supposed to remember to reconnect to God, because we're at 5,784. That's our year out of 6,000. We are promised a redemption. So from Yitzchak also had another son called Esav, who was wicked. Okay, and it said like they were twins and they were even fighting in the womb. When one is up, the other is down. It's about to be time for the Jews to reclaim the upper hand. What does that mean? We're not going to destroy everyone like they've tried to destroy us over the years. No, we just want the reestablishment of the kingdom of David in Jerusalem. So the temple will be built and we will reconnect in our reality with God. And then there will be peace on earth. That's what the redemption is. That's what Judaism is. And again, I'm going right back to the Kuzari here, just the preface that talks about Yehuda Levi, who is one of the most revered philosophical works, the Kuzari. Within its pages, the reader will find a tremendous amount of wisdom and lucid thought presented by a Jew who was immensely proud of his Judaism. And that's what I want to awaken you to as well. Okay? Not just the trauma, not just the Holocaust, not just October 7th, not just the anti-Semitism. Why did they hate us? Can't they just like us? Can't they just see how much good we've brought to the world? Can't they just see how many Nobel Prizes that we have and how smart we are and how many innovations we've made and how we've improved the lives of everyone in the world and how the startup nation has... No. You need to reconnect with your Jewish pride, with your Jewish history. And also, by the way, because it's the end of time, the prophets now tell us, especially in Ishaya, go back and look where you came from. Go back and discover your roots. Go back farther than the Holocaust 1.0. Go back and look at Avraham and Sarah. Read the history. Read the commentaries. Read the books that have been written by all our sages and saints and rabbis of the past. Go back and explore your own history and know that your grandparents and their grandparents and their grandparents, and they suffered a lot for us so that this knowledge would not be lost. Our great grandmothers may have gone out in the winter to do a mikveh with an ice pick to break the ice off of a river in order to go in to make a mikveh so they could keep family purity. And now we are here in the year 5,784 and we don't feel like going to the mikveh, which is a beautiful spa in most places available to you in your community. But you don't see the need. You don't know. I feel like our great grandparents and our whole lineage and our forefathers and foremothers and everyone at least deserve that at the end what all of this was for, to keep this chain of information so that in the end of time, which is now, because again, if we look at this from 0 to the middle, all right, and we're going to 6,000, okay? I know that because it's in the Torah, okay? Skipping all this part, I have other classes on this. We're here, 5,784. And over and over and over again, they talk about Dor Aharon, the end generation. It's us. And in Ishaya, the prophet, he tells us, go back and look from where you came from. You came from Abraham and Sarah. You came from Yitzchak and Rivka. You came from Yaakov, Leah, and Rachel. You came from one of the 12 tribes of Israel. You are a Jew, and that's a beautiful, beautiful thing, okay? And we don't need everyone to love us. They're not going to. We need to reconnect with God. We need God in our reality. We need God in our lives. Okay, if you are super skeptical and whatever, read this book. Okay, he defends it. He defends Judaism for us, to us. Okay, it's presented by a Jew who was immensely proud of his Judaism, Rabbi Yehuda Levi. And he was never an apologist for any of Judaism's teachings, no matter how controversial. Okay, such as the elitism of Jewish people. That, you know, and that's people like, oh, the chosen people, like, you're so racist. It's not anything to do with that, okay? It's just that this information of God went through this line to the Jews, to the nation of Israel. If you're jealous of that, non-Jews, come, be a proselyte, convert to Judaism. You're allowed to do that. Join us. Don't, you know, come mad at us for that's the fact. That's our history, our lineage, our information, our knowledge. Okay, you have your other stuff. We don't. I'm not coming out and saying anything. You know, if you want to believe in whatever your history and your great grandparents and their great grandparents and all the way back to Yafet or to Esav, that's fine. That's fine with me. But I'm a Jew, and this is my history. This is my information. This is my lineage and my inheritance, and it's all here for everybody. Just reconnect. Be proud. Be proud that you're a Jew. Reconnect to your Judaism. Wake up. The end of time, like Ishaya says, Isaiah. Go look at Isaiah. 48 to like 53. Just start there. It's beautiful. It will make you awaken. It will help heal some of this generational trauma. I mean, this trauma is such a interesting thing. If people know how to traumatize you and then trauma bond you to them as a society, let's say all of us, there's ways to do that. Then you can be controlled. You can be distracted. You can be, you can be constantly put in a state of fight or flight and never have a minute of rest to contemplate God. But you should, because that's the key to everything. That's the key to everything. So, let's look here again. It says, he told it the way it is, in a straightforward, unabashed manner. If there was anything in his society that contradicted the Torah, it was obviously wrong. This brimming pride and confidence in his faith and its teachings are what made Rabbi Yehuda Levi so beloved and respected by his people. Very, very interesting read. Highly recommend. Highly recommend also just reconnect to the Torah. Awaken yourself as your Jew, as a Jew. Awaken your Judaism. You're being awakened right now by God. Nothing happens randomly. October 7th wasn't random. We're at the end of time and God wants us home. God wants to call his people, the Jews, back home. And he tells us in the prophets, go and investigate from where you came. Know that this is the truth. The Torah is the truth.